Tonight on Free Minds TV, nanny statism at its best, both here in the United States as well as the UK, taxpayers being forced to build historic sewer museums, we'll tell you more, and a student brings a squirt gun to school and shuts down the Princeton campus. All that and a whole lot more on episode 120 of Free Minds TV. And welcome to a brand new edition of Free Minds TV, where we challenge you, the viewer, to think outside the box. With you, as always, is Toby.
And Nick.
We have a jam-packed show today, Nick. There's so many great stories or sad, pitiful stories about the government intruding in people's lives and just screwing it up over and over again. And I'm going to have to look at tonight's stories in a humorous view, because if you're going to be taking all this stuff serious, even though they are serious situations, it'll make you very, very depressed, because there are just so many instances where the government is just screwing things up for everybody over and over and over again. As I was browsing the internet for stories this week, time and time again, I'd stumble across stories that just boggled my mind, that how people have created these governments to do this, to spend our tax money on these kinds of things. All right, as we get into the stories, you'll get the understanding of where we're going on this, because it's just ridiculous. The first one I wanted to start with is coming out of London, where a woman, a 45-year-old grandmother, Deborah Dark, has been just found out that she is a fugitive in France and has been for the last 20 years. When Dark was 24 in 1988, she was stopped at a French border patrol while on her way home from a vacation in Spain. Agents searched her car and uncovered cannabis plants under the floor mat and hidden in the compartment of the sunroof. Well, when she went to court, she was acquitted. The court believed her story that she said she didn't know the marijuana was on her, and it was her boyfriend's. The court found her not guilty, acquitted her, told her she could go home. Well, what she didn't know is that the court later appealed her case and had a trial without her presence. They also found her guilty and sentenced her to 20 years behind bars. Well, even though she wasn't there to defend herself, France still, 20 years later, over 20 years later actually almost, it's 2009 here, this happened in 1988, 21 years later, wants her to come back to France to serve her 20-year jail sentence. Now, she just found this out because she tried to go on vacation and her passport was flagged, and they found it in London that she had to go to France. London didn't quite push her all the way to France to get extradited, but they have made her life a living hell back at home. She's lost her job. She can't find another job. She's put down as a fugitive. London would like her to go to France voluntarily. They're not going to force her to go there, but it has completely ruined her life. They want this 45-year-old grandmother to go to jail for 20 years for something a court found her innocent of. Now, people in the United States will be watching this and wondering what's going on here, because she was found not guilty. How can they appeal this? That's usually what defendants do when they're found guilty. Well, we have double jeopardy here in the United States. They don't have that all over the world. So if you're found not guilty, you can still, the prosecution can appeal it in other countries, and you can have a retrial.
Yeah, France doesn't have the same system of justice we're familiar with here in the United States or in the United Kingdom. That's all based off of sort of English common law, and you have a right to a trial by jury and to face your accusers and to not be tried twice for the same offenses. And so most English-speaking countries have basically the same legal tradition, and they're all sort of similar. But France is a completely different subject, and they've created their own system where you really don't have all these due process rights. So they acquit you on the charge, but then they can just bring it back up again and sentence you when you're not there.
Yeah, they can have a trial without you present. And I mean, we've seen that even happen here in the United States in some cases where verdicts are issued for people when they're not present and such. And the United States, I don't want to say that our justice system is the one to follow at all, because ours is completely screwed up on the criminal side as well as the civil side. But at least it's better than this.
They're not going to
sentence you to 20 years to life after you've already been found not guilty by a previous court.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I think that we are lucky to have here in the United States is what is left of the justice system that grew out of English common law and out of protections that were put in at the time of the American Revolution. We're actually, as broken of a system as we currently have in the United States, it's based on some pretty sound ideas, and there are some safeguards built in that just don't exist in a lot of the world. So I think we are lucky there not to have a justice system like the one they have in France or many other countries around the world, where you're not even necessarily innocent until this government proves you guilty. You can oftentimes be guilty until you prove yourself innocent. So in many other parts of the world, things don't work the same way that they do here in the US or even in the UK.
Well, speaking of other parts of the world, I wanted to stay in Europe while we'll be darting all over the world in tonight's show, but I did want to stay there for the next story and talk a little bit about their nanny statism. This is a subject that we've brushed on many times in the show, but each and every story just gets a little bit more ridiculous. We've talked about how they basically, you can't own guns there. Knives are becoming illegal. You can't, swords are becoming illegal. But what about simple stuff to maybe eat a meal or even cut a pizza?
Well, we've reported silverware. You do need to show ID to buy silverware now, and I think that includes spoons.
Well, you got to get rid of those fork and spoon crimes. This is a new one I had not yet heard about. I didn't know that there were actually a lot of pizza crimes going on where people were being attacked with pizza cutters. Is this actually happening, or is the government just being ridiculous and saying you need to be at least 18 to buy it?
I have my doubts that there's been very many attacks with pizza cutters in the UK, but they're on this slippery slope where everything that could possibly be used as a weapon is being regulated or banned. And according to the Telegraph, Jenny Palmer, age 28, was asked for her ID at the checkout as she went to Marks and Spencer to buy a pizza cutter. And she was pretty upset about this because she's 28 years old.
Well, it's okay.
And she's buying a
IDing her
pizza
is one
cutter.
thing. What's so ridiculous is that the state has said that you have to be 18 to buy a pizza cutter. Well, the stores aren't forced. I read this story a couple times, and I was trying to figure out what's going on
The
here.
law might be ambiguous here, so the stores might be being more cautious than they need
Well,
to.
that's why they ID'd her, is under like some 25 thing where they're trying challenge 25.
So
they're trying to ID anyone who looks under 25 for anything you need to be 18 to buy. Well, why would you need to be 18 to buy a pizza cutter? You know, if I was going to choose a weapon, I don't know if I'd use a pizza cutter. Should they outlaw branches? I mean, branches can be pretty big. You can use them as a club, Nick.
Rocks can be thrown, and heavy rocks can be used to beat somebody with.
A pizza cutter.
Probably more dangerous than a pizza cutter.
I mean, it's just so ridiculous where a state is ready to ban pizza cutters for those who are under 18. Are people who are under 18 not allowed to cut a pizza? Where would you be in life if...
you might be able to use it, you might just not be able to buy it.
Well, not everybody is living with 18-year-olds. There are some younger people
And
out.
if you're carrying it, that could be considered carrying a concealed weapon, I think. Because I've heard, I've heard accounts from Great Britain where they're arresting people for carrying knives, even not very big knives, like pocket knives could be considered a weapon that you're concealing if you don't have a good enough excuse for the authorities.
Well, of course, if pocket knives are a weapon, if a pizza cutter is a weapon, a pocket knife would definitely be a weapon. But is there any other highlights to this story? I mean,
the store is actually standing by it. A spokesman for Marks & Spencer said, "Our policy is not to sell knives or bladed articles to persons under 18, and the pizza wheel fits into that category. We are a responsible retailer, and our customers expect us to be vigilant in providing blades if people appear to be underage."
Well, good for them. I mean, you can't. I guess you can protect everyone. I'm really curious what this next generation over in the UK is going to look like. The ones that didn't learn how to use spoons or pizza cutters until they're 18. Anyways, moving right along. It's not just the UK that has all this nanny statism going on. I mean, we're quite afraid over here in the United States as well. And I don't think there's any state that really does the nanny statism quite like California does. And that's where this next story is coming from, is out of California, where the governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, recently made a YouTube video where he was talking about slashing the budget. I mean, we've talked about how California is in a horrible state of being right now. They can't afford,
well, the state of California
anything.
is. The government has bent itself into bankruptcy, essentially.
Yes, I mean, their budget is like $26 billion or more in debt, and the governor is coming out and saying, "I'm going to slash $15 billion worth of unnecessary programs." Well, when he did this, and you can see on the video that's up on the screen, he was kind of joking a little bit, and he had a big old hunting knife, I guess, a giant, like 3-foot retractable knife, and he said, "I'm slashing the prices with the knife, and I mean, I'm slashing the budget." And people found that so offensive. The nanny staters are up in arms about this, saying that it's so offensive to have a knife, and the head of the state is out here saying that we can use these things, and people are offended by this. And it was so insensitive for him to do that. How how could a man do this? I mean, he's so responsible, and he's making light of a very grave situation. God, people are a bunch of wimps. I got to move on.
Well,
make your own opinion of it.
The people of California did vote against a tax increase. They knew the state was facing a massive budget deficit. So, through a referendum, most of the people of California said cut spending. Or maybe that's not what they wanted to happen, but there's no other logical conclusion. Either the state was going to raise taxes to cover this deficit, or it was going to have to cut programs. You get one or the other, or both. And the people of California said, we don't want any higher taxes. So, of course, the budget's going to get cut. And I think the governor was probably happy about that because there's been deadlock on the budget issue, and California was actually issuing IOUs, quite literally, just pieces of paper, even for tax refunds and things like that. They were issuing pieces of paper that said, well, the state of California owes you this much money, but we don't have it right now. So, I mean, that's where the situation was.
Yes, but I mean, what gets me is how people are so upset that he would be so insensitive and have a sense of humor about this thing, and to use a knife in America, Nick. I mean, we're a sensitive people. God, it makes me sick. And I mean, shouldn't they know that when they elect an actor as governor that he should have some kind of sense of humor? I mean, he's charismatic.
An actor from action films is probably going to pull out a knife at some point during his governorship.
Yeah, I mean, how offended are they when they watch Terminator? I mean, it's got to just make them go crazy. Anyways, we do have to move on to another grave situation. This one costing taxpayers hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And this story coming from Iowa, but it's happening all around the country because of the federal stimulus bill and federal spending on dollars, which says we need to protect historic sites and historic buildings. Well, apparently that also not only protects the building, but what's under the building and those old sewers, those dingy sewers that have been working for maybe 100, 150 years in some cases. Well, a lot of states and cities and municipalities are being given grants by the federal government to rebuild these sewers because they're falling apart. Okay, we could debate whether the federal government should be spending money on state-run stuff and city-run stuff, but that's not the issue here. The issue here is that the federal government is requiring studies being done if the grant money is used to see if we should build historic sewer museums so that the public can tour these old sewers. Now, still might sound, well, nice. Well, someone might want to go in an old crappy sewer, literally, and take a look. Maybe they clean them, of course. But anyways, someone might want to take a look, and that's nice. Well, taxpayers are being forced to foot this bill in the tune of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even millions of dollars. This one Iowa town is spending $27,500 to hire a simple inspection of what it would cost to build a museum. That doesn't even start building the historic sewer museum. Just almost $30,000 just to study how much it will cost. And it will cost several hundred thousands of dollars just in this one city alone. And the article goes on for pages and pages, the different weighing views of historians saying these are important sewers, we need to protect them for future generations. Well, I'm saying I just want to be able to flush my toilet and have it go in the right place. They don't think so. I say this, if historic sewers are so important to you, well, pool your money together and save a few of them. Do we really need to save them all? I don't know. Let the market figure that out. If people want to go and spend their hard-earned money on restoring old sewers so that future generations can walk down them in some prehistoric museum, not too prehistoric, I guess, just old dingy sewers, we'll see. The article also talks about how these sewers would pose quite the health risks to a lot of people. I mean, a lot of them are quite dirty. They have fumes in them and would require extensive cleaning. And some experts don't know if the public would ever even be allowed in some of them. But anyways, we'll spend the money regardless. That's it.
Well, they don't actually have to build anything that anyone will want because they get this money through taxes, and they don't actually have to build things that people would want to pay to see. They can just build the museum, and if it sits vacant while the government built it, they don't actually have to build something where there's a need to build something. They can just build it, and if people don't show up, oh well. And then these cities can pay money to actually maintain these museums.
Meanwhile, I'm hitting a pothole every time I drive down the street because they can't keep the tops of the roads together because, well, I don't know. At least here in Keene, New Hampshire, I haven't heard of this historic sewer museum building.
I don't know if they're fixing the
who
sewers
knows?
in Keene, but it sounds like if they are, then they
need
have to study
exactly.
the idea.
Oh, it's wonderful. And maybe even build a museum. Hey, maybe, Nick, you and I can someday, and even the viewers who live here in Keene, New Hampshire, or around the area, can travel to Keene to visit our old sewers. I surely hope it never comes to that. Personally, I have no interest. All right, moving right along. Well, not moving along so much because it's time for us to take a break. But I did want to say this. Visit freemindstv.com. From there, there's the members side, which is only $3 a month or $30 a year. If you can't foot the bill on that, maybe send us $1 or $2. You can send us as little as 1 penny using PayPal, and we'd really appreciate it. If you've been watching Free Minds TV, you've gotten some enjoyment out of it. Well, we don't make any money off the show. It's tough to even break even sometime. So if you enjoy the show, you've been watching it for a while, consider sending us $1 or more. It would really help out. You can do that at freemindstv.com, plus all the other goodies that are there, the blogs, the radio show, and everything else. freemindstv.com. All right, when we come back, we are going to be talking about FEMA, dangerous squirt guns on the Princeton campus, as well as some more ridiculous stories coming out of the UK. Stay tuned. This is Free Minds TV.
Free Minds TV is brought to you in part by Life Productions for your basic and semi-pro video production needs. From full wedding and event coverage to DVD authoring and distributions, lifeproductions.com. That's lyfproductions.com.
Well, thank you, Spencer.
This is Mark Edge from Free Talk Live, and you're watching Free Minds TV.
And welcome back to Free Minds TV. It is Toby here with you.
And Nick?
All right, we have a whole lot more to talk about and not all that much time, so we're going to jump right into the stories. Before we were talking about how people were afraid of big hunting knives that they saw Arnold waving about. Well, it's not only hunting knives that make some people nervous. Some people are afraid of squirt guns and water pistols. Even the college educated, it seems. The upper elite, most colleges. A water pistol is very hard to distinguish from a real gun, or is it the fact that they're just afraid of anything that looks like a gun? Anyways, I think you've got a story about how it really made some trouble on the Princeton campus.
Yeah, Princeton University's Department of Public Safety has confirmed that there's, and this is what was reported basically as the incident happened, that there is no threat to the campus following an investigation that ended with a determination that an individual was walking on campus with a toy gun. So there was an alert posted for everybody on the Princeton campus around 8 a.m. on Monday. And by 8:34, the campus safety had posted an all clear message. Public safety had received a call shortly after 8 a.m. from a university employee, so it's not even the students here, it's faculty, who reported that a student-aged male was walking near McCosh Hall towards Washington Road with an item resembling a weapon. After searching the area and reviewing the witness statement, public safety and police determined the item described matched that of a toy water gun, and the all clear was issued. So apparently, what I'm assuming is a college professor, I guess it could have been a janitor, but apparently a college professor can't tell the difference between a super soaker and a weapon that would pose a threat to anyone.
Yeah, well, this is what colleges are coming to these days. I mean, a lot of people out there, though, Nick, are saying, well, you can't be too safe.
It's not a state university, it's
Nick,
Princeton.
What about the viewers who are saying you can't be too safe? What about
Yes,
Virginia Tech and all this other stuff? We've got to keep people safe, and any minor threat we've got to take seriously.
If it's a super soaker, it's not a gun.
Yeah, I remember.
And if you can't tell the difference, maybe you're not qualified to work for Princeton University.
Yeah, I remember during Greek Week when I was in college, we used to have fraternity games and stuff where we'd team up and bring water pistols on campus and shoot each other. It was a whole tournament thing, and we never had any issues. If they were going to be shutting down Keene State College every time there was a water pistol on campus, well, we wouldn't get much school done. So it's mind-boggling how the safety thing, people are just seems overreactive.
It's more than just, I mean, it's just irrational fear is basically what it amounts to. And a lot of people who have an irrational fear of weapons have no education about them whatsoever. I mean, it's much more...
Not even the highly educated Ivy League college professors?
It's a lot easier to be afraid of something that you're unfamiliar with. Because it's difficult to be afraid of an inanimate object once you actually understand how it functions, how it could be dangerous, and how it can't be dangerous. So
that's just
I think the
talk,
fact,
Nick. Yeah, it's crazy talk.
I'm
leaving this as my opinion is you can never be too careful Shut it down. Someone brings a pizza cutter on campus. Shut it down. Let's ban them from the cafeterias too. I mean, they're dangerous, Nick.
There's forks in there, Toby. Sometimes they're made of metal.
We're going to be switching to plastic spoons and nothing else. All right, moving right along. Let's go back. We picked on the United States for a little bit. Let's go back to the UK and pick on them because, well, their nanny statism only gets worse. Before we were talking about pizza cutters. Now we're talking about dangerous signs. Yes, signs that people could trip over and potentially get a scraped knee. This story coming out of Devon, where the Devon City Council has told a village tea room owner that she must take down her sign that's been out in front of her business for over a year. Although there has never been an incident where someone tripped over the sign that is adjacent to the sidewalk, not on the sidewalk, but near the sidewalk on a grassy area that points
That's
to
where
her
you
tea
put
shop.
a sign to tell people who are walking where the tea shop is.
Yeah, so it makes sense. You'd put a sign up to let people know that you have got a business. It's been there for over a year. No issues. No one's ever tripped over it. But the Devon City Council has said that it poses a health and safety risk, and she must take the sign down. She was ordered to take the sign down, which she did, and since then, well, business has gone into the toilet. She's only made $8 in one day, $6 in another day, and she's shutting down her business, costing 5 jobs along with her business. That will go. People don't know her tea shop is there unless her sign is there, and, well, it's too dangerous to put a little sign, and you can see it. It's right up there on the screen that this is not a real menacing sign that someone's going to kill themselves on. It's a little sign that's way away from the sidewalk where people will not be walking unless they're completely obliterated. And, well, then I guess you could probably stub your toe on a curb as well. I mean, there's a lot of safety risks out there, and I don't think that this tea shop sign is going to be the one that kills someone. And if it does, well, that's Darwinism at its best, because if they're killed by this sign or seriously injured by this sign, they probably had it coming. Enough said.
I really can't disagree
No
too
argument
much for
there.
that.
Anyways, there is a petition going on urging the city council to allow this woman to put her sign back so she doesn't have to close down her business. But so far, they're staying with it, saying health and safety, can't ever be too careful here. Got to protect even the weak, the ones who couldn't step around the sign. Well, I guess you wouldn't step around the sign because you're on the sidewalk. You would be.
Somebody could run into a house, though, too, couldn't they?
I know, maybe no houses.
They really could just walk right
We
into
should
the house.
cut down all the trees and there should just be grass. Well, grass is too dangerous. We'll have to put down some kind of. How about rubber rooms for everyone, Nick? Only the people who write the laws and can go outside. The upper people, those who won't get hurt. You know, the
There's
people who
dangerous
are above all
chemicals
of us.
in rubber, though, too.
But you, me, the rest of the general public should probably just be put in a room a padded room, somewhere where we can't hurt ourselves, because the world is a dangerous place. All right, moving on. Speaking of danger. Well, the federal government is ready to protect us if we ever are in need, and they've been running these drills from one of our favorite government agencies, the federal agency of FEMA, has been running some drills, and you've got the latest on how those drills went.
Yep. Well, it's not how they went, it's how they're going.
Oh, they're continuing.
Yeah, well, at the time we're recording this, they're ongoing. They started on Monday of this week, and it's a joint simulation of a terrorist attack that's being held by FEMA as well as the Department of Homeland Security. And the security exercise is known as National Level Exercise 09, or NLE 09. And what has a lot of people concerned is not just that the federal government will be participating in this drill, along with state agencies and local agencies, and I guess the Navajo Nation, but also that FEMA, on its own website, in a press release, stated that this year the United States welcomes the participation of Australia, Canada, Mexico, and the United Kingdom to NLE 09.
Now, these are
foreign countries.
No, but these are going on somewhere other than the United States, because we wouldn't be bringing on all sorts of other countries to be military to be present on the United States soil, would we? I mean, maybe
we don't know, because FEMA didn't say. The press release did not elaborate on the roles that these foreign officials would be playing, although the United States does train foreign military on American soil. It's a misconception that people have if they think that they don't.
On military bases and such?
Yeah, the United States does train, fighter pilots for other countries. They do train land forces, special forces, cooperate and collaborate in training. So the United States is in the business of having foreign military on U.S. soil. Now, usually they're not whole units. A lot of times there's just 1 or 2 foreign observers. But people are concerned that this could mean that there are foreign troops participating in this simulated terrorist attack, because if it's supposed to simulate what the government would do after a terrorist attack, why are they collaborating with Canadian and Mexican forces, potentially? Maybe they're just talking to people in Canada who are staring at a computer screen it has not been made clear. But the Canadian federal government did confirm its involvement in a press release attributed to Public Safety Canada.
So in a case of an emergency, let's say a huge old cyclone hits not only America, I mean, not only the United States, but also a country like Canada, is there a chance that Canadian troops could be used here in America?
My understanding is that under legislation that has been adopted or protocols that have been adopted, yes, there are agreements where with permission Canadian forces can come into the United States and American forces can go into Canada. I'm not sure if it's the same reciprocity on the Mexican side, but I remember reporting on a piece of policy where essentially the Canadian and the United States militaries could switch off troops if both countries agreed. But that still makes many Americans uneasy.
I mean, I'm uneasy with FEMA. I mean, we saw what they did in Hurricane Katrina, where they were turning away Walmart trucks that were filled with ice, trying to get it to the people who are stuck in Louisiana in the blistering heat. FEMA turning away tractor-trailer truck loads full of water and ice for these people who are, some of them dying of thirst. And FEMA sitting here turning them away, saying, oh, we've got it under control. The federal government's in charge here. We don't allow private enterprises to come and help people out. I mean, and that's just one of the many stories. I mean, I remember when Katrina was going on, all the atrocities that FEMA was doing and just the how much they screwed everything up.
Yeah,
I guess they're doing this so they never do. They're doing this so they never screw anything up again, right, Nick?
They've had drills like this in the past.
I trust them. I trust them with my life.
They're a bloated, inefficient bureaucracy because they are a government agency. And the fact of the matter is, if you're going to be handling this kind of response through government, it's best to keep it local, and you're far better off preparing for yourself rather than relying on government officials to keep you safe or respond after the fact. A lot of the people who suffered the most under Hurricane Katrina simply weren't prepared, whether they just didn't have the money or the forethought to actually prepare for a hurricane in New Orleans, of all places, as if a hurricane could ever hit New Orleans. I do have to say, it's not all the federal government's fault. People should have been preparing for themselves to survive the disaster.
Okay, I'll take that, but it's also the federal government said, don't worry about it, we've taken care of you. That's what they've been saying all the time. They always say, we'll take care of you. Yes, they did say you should go get some duct tape and some plastic bags to tape up your windows in case we're ever struck by some form of virus that's going to be, I don't know, afraid of duct tape. But other than that, they've been saying, we'll take care of you. Don't worry about it. The government's in control. You don't need to do anything. Just sit back and relax, and we'll kill you, I guess. Anyways,
or just let you die. They didn't really kill anybody, but they let them die.
It's the people's, well, sort of, who's negligent here. They said, we'll take care of you. They didn't. They turned away Walmart trucks. It seems like it's negligent homicide to me, but people have their different opinions. You can email us yours at fmtv@freemindstv.com or log on to our website, freemindstv.com. All the contact info's there, as well as everything else, Free Minds TV, Free Minds Radio, and Free Minds Media related. Everything's up there, freemindstv.com. It's been Toby here with you.
And Nick.
And join us next week. We'll have a jam-packed show, I'm sure. Have a great one.